violence. Tune in from 8 p.m. to midnight Pacific Standard Time to listen and chat live.
Don't have Green Travelers. Local hair band. That girl who's beating that drum, that bass, my girl TJ. Yeah. Just see her in action. She can beat that thing. I'm telling you. Ooh.
Getting excited.
I am excited every time I see her do that live. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm okay now. Let's talk about music. I'm Shells, your host, and I have a brand new co-host. It's Spider in the Hall.
That's me. That's my name.
You.
That's what
we've been talking to politics, activism throughout the music, and it's been a very interesting and educational topic. And
Yeah, I think we've both learned a lot of things so far.
Yeah, we did. I mean, even when Johnny Sonic was on, I learned a lot of different kind of opinion to make, a point, make from a different point of view. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. He had a lot of good points to make, and being a musician like myself, it's a unique perspective kind of to bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Especially being a different kind of genre of music too, because different genres have, different effects on people.
Oh, that's for sure. For sure. Now, you were mentioned earlier, before we got on the air, that you researched something about the history of music too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as activism goes, activism is kind of a broad word, and when you talk about it these days, you always think about protests and signs and issues and things like that. But activism it's been around a long time, and as far as music's been applied to it, as far back in the United States as the American Revolution, before we were really the United States, they used music as a form of political activism. Everybody, of course, who lives here in the United States knows the song Yankee Doodle. Mm-hmm. And the British actually wrote that first because they wanted to make fun of the Americans and kind of bring the morale down. But the Americans at the time thought it was kind of funny, and then they thought, that works. We're going to use it, and we're going to use it to help us instead of we're going to live up to it and we're going to surpass it. So they kind of used it as a rallying cry and turned it around on the British and kind of made it their own, and now it's famous. And now it's a famous song for us rather than for them, technically. Although there's not really an us and them now, but
right.
And there's a lot of examples of that. Like, of course, that's here on home soil, but you get a lot of kind of darker uses for music in similar veins like that too. Like a lot of totalitarian places like Nazi Germany and the communist countries, they used music that was about old glories of the country, of who we were before, and patriotism, that kind of thing, to keep reminding people that, hey, you should always put your country first, which is good to an extent, but it was kind of to keep people blinded to what else was going on behind the scenes. It was to keep them so focused on being a good countryman, a good citizen, and that they wouldn't question the darker, more unacceptable things that were going on kind of under the covers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting band of history you got there. So that, I didn't really know about Yankee Doodle, so that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. And even before then, music, not necessarily as a political tool, but still as an activism tool, you have like nursery rhymes, like "Ring Around the Rosie," of course, was talking about the Black Death at the time, the plague, and it was a way to communicate the kind of things that happened at the time, so people could kind of remember that and use it as like a memory boosting little tune, kind of, so to speak. Like if they're traveling around and they want to keep themselves reminded that, oh, there's plague running rampant, they can hum this little song to themselves with these words, and it would remind them about what it did and some of the symptoms. And that's kind of a form of activism too. It's a form of awareness, of keeping people aware of something that's going on that's really important. That at the time, of course, plague was really running rampant. It was something that everyone in the medieval world had to know about.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that plague took out a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Huge chunks of society just gone pretty much within days. And so they would come up with these nursery rhymes, and it's interesting because we don't really have things like that these days. We're so connected with the social media and the internet and everything that we don't have these little tunes. Even like television commercials, they used to be. I think some people still call them jingles, and they're not really jingles anymore. Like,
nope.
How often can you remember watching a TV commercial and remembering what this, like, if they even had a song involved that was specifically about that product, or if it was just some generic song that they picked out from somewhere that might not even talk about a product.
Yeah.
And I really can. I mean, it's not very often. Like, there's some big famous ones. Like, there's the Folgers song.
Folgers in your cup.
Yeah. And, when I was growing up, you had they would play that song in the commercials, but, you don't see it so much anymore. And the same with some of your fast food restaurants, different things like that. So music kind of comes and goes as a communication tool as far as, like, activism goes. And again, you might not consider things like that as to be activism, but it is, because it's trying to sway people towards a certain thing, and even if it's just to buy a product or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also, going, okay, we're talking about coffee.
Coffee's good. I love coffee.
Coffee is awesome. Because I drink Folgers coffee. Because, even Maxwell House actually has their own jingle, too.
Mm.
And I don't like Maxwell House coffee. It tastes funky, but I've always been part of the Folgers coffee. I'll call it a cult. Not really a cult, but, we'll call it that way anyway. So I've been a big fan of Folgers ever since I can possibly remember. And that's what all I like to drink is Folgers coffee. So.
Yeah. And they have that song, of course, The Good to the Last Drop, and Maxwell House has that little, like, percolator kind of sound that's identifiable, but you don't see it as much anymore. And
no,
again, maybe it's just because the internet, you can see visually all these ads, and you don't need to hear them necessarily. So maybe it's a visual form of consumer activism, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
sure.
Going along with that, you even have there's the big push for healthy diets and healthy eating and everything, and organic foods. So now you actually have real activism that goes on against some of these things. Like, if you go online, there's numerous blogs and numerous, like, websites talking about, there's these chemicals in our food, we're building up this petition to get this chemical out of this food and all this other stuff. And there's so much of that going along too. So activism is kind of, it's everywhere. It's no surprise that it would kind of leak into our music and the art that we deal with on a regular basis, and it's almost saturating our culture. Like, so much activism is out there. I mean, I can even say the word, like, so many times now in a conversation, and it seems like it would get old, but it's just there. It's everywhere. You almost can't get away from it. So it's no surprise that there'd be so many artists that would use it to some form, and that would just go on and on and on about different things.
Right. Yeah, it's a situation when people believe in something, they'll keep going on and on until you actually agree with them, and then they'll continue talking about it. Or if you don't agree with them, they have their opinion on it, and then you guys have a kind of like a debate going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And you can get that with it's almost funny to think about how about music being used for debate purposes. It seems like a funny idea. This is something that the hip hop community really knows a lot about. You get these rap battles, and most of the time they're about, well, I rap better than you do, and like dominance kind of thing, territory.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain amount of activism that goes on because a lot of times, especially